So welcome back to the Dr. Fluffy channel. In the first part of these videos about gender and the war on gender, we talked about definitions of biological sex, sexual reproduction, the binary characterization of the human race, dimorphism, gender role, gender identity, and we also talked about intersex. Now we're going to talk about another group of people that ideologues love to use to justify non-binary classifications. The second group of people used by radical ideologues to defend the multiple gender idea is transsexual people. You know, people suffering from gender dysphoria. But remember the treatment and what gender dysphoria patients want? They want to change their sex to match the opposite sex. Well, this would make no sense unless sex and gender were binary. And they are. This condition is a problem with the brain. It may have or it may not have a solution other than the current treatment, but regardless is not a third gender. Just people that, as the name entails, transition from one to the other in a binary scale. For a bit more information on gender dysphoria, check my first video where I mention a bit more gender dysphoria condition is, and how it does not create a third gender. So okay, both of these groups of people are just fine on the binary scale, and they have no problems in there. So where do these non-binary people come from, and why are they using these people to justify the non-binary classification? Well, in the 21st century, kids have been taught that they being victims is a good thing, that you can shut down any other person if you are a victim, and you can be in safe spaces protected from the outside world. And reality, you have the people indoctrinating kids into this ideology, people that have no qualifications and kind of make up things as they needed to. So even the gender binary theory changes on their whims. Everything changes, the definitions change according to what they need to propagate this victimhood culture. You have professional victims that use the two groups that we mentioned before to integrate a false victim group in order to get attention, views, and sympathy from others, and to try to bully others into following a political correctness system where they're always right and everybody who disagrees with them is wrong. So they can do whatever they want because they're part of a victim group. Then you have kids deprived of a normal life because they were indoctrinated into this political correctness, this victimhood narrative, this minority versus majority, victim versus perpetrated mentality that are victims in a way because they were brainwashed and robbed of a normal puberty, a normal psychological development. These kids were taught basically a bunch of bullshit, and now they think that for them to be good people and for them to be happy, they need to be special. So they need to accept all this political correctness. They cannot challenge anything because if not, they're being abusive. They're being part of that majority, that mean majority of those disgusting majority people. And everybody wants to be part of the cool kids, the progressives. And not realizing that they're not progressing anything. They're just denying reality. These people are not intersex people, don't suffer from gender dysphoria. They have no reason to have a victim status, so they need to get one. They want one. They want it really bad. So while some just use it to control others and to tell others they're also victims, some will desperately try to get it. And they will change definitions. They will try to confuse you and create a victimhood group that they can be a part of. So they look at two groups that were victimized in some way during periods of time, and in the end are victims of bad natural selection luck, and they decide to use their names and create a label they can use to victimize themselves and justify the concept of non-binary. Using this rare exception to the very precise natural selection specimen that is the Homo sapien, they say sex and gender are social constructs and they can create their own. How? By using personality traits or fashion choices to create new genders. And it is all these made up genders are individual personality traits and fashion choices confused with gender. None of these genders reproduce differently, none have anatomic differences, none have different morphology characteristics that can make a different gender. They are what they are, particular personalities and fashion choices. When you confront them with the truth, they will become aggressive and attempt character assassination at the higher levels. They will bring up those two groups and call your analysis of their natural morphology and psychological medical conditions as abuse. They will call you many buzzwords. They will bring up homosexuality, something that has nothing to do with transsexual people. As you know, homosexuality is a natural sexual orientation that is observed in almost all mammals at significant statistical levels, but that has no connection with gender dysphoria or intersex conditions. And they will compare your refusal to accept scientific incorrect definitions with religious bigotry against homosexuality. They will try anything to keep their victimhood intact. In the end, non-binary people are normal people like you and me. They have no medical condition to speak of, and they are not a third gender. They're just kids who want to be victims, who are playing the victim, who are trying to be different. But you can be different without making things up, because we all have different personalities. But different personalities do not create new regulations. So that's why they don't accept that they're just people with different personalities. Because having a different gender, a minority gender, can change legislation, can make them special under the law. And that's what they really want in the end. To force people into doing what they want, like in Canada, where people are now forced to use made up pronouns to refer to people with made up genders. These people should be ashamed of themselves and should apologize to intersex patients and patients with gender dysphoria, people who actually struggle every day with their conditions, trying to just live a normal life the best they can. And while these kids use their names and their conditions to lie, deceive, and abuse others. Well, I hope you all had fun. Next video, I'm probably going to take on one of these ideologues' position, take it apart, and show how delusional and dishonest they can be. Please hit the like button, subscribe, share. It really helps out the guy. Just remember,